Behold, my stuff.
Hey, what's going on, YouTube? I wanted to do a reaction video to Evil Dead Rise. As you guys know, I have a pretty big obsession with Evil Dead franchise through prop replicas and things like that. If you're in the Knights of Samaria, then you know that. So I really liked the movie. It felt a lot like Evil Dead. Way more Evil Dead feeling than the 2013 did. 2013 sort of went a different direction, tried to reinvent the franchise a little bit. And I liked that movie a lot. It was the first attempt at doing a horror movie since the very first Evil Dead. This movie felt like every other Raimi Evil Dead did, while at the same time having a lot of that clean, new horror that 2013 had. Without diving too much into the particulars, a couple talking points just to react to it. I thought it was great. It was like as good as horror can get. I mean, it's like 7 out of 10. It's a good movie. It's definitely enjoyable. It's uncomfortable to watch at times, which is good, but there's enough camp in it that it's not like deliberately uncomfortable. Like they didn't really get a lot of low-hanging fruit that a lot of horror movies tend to do, like very base id lizard brain low-hanging fruit to please people. Like that stuff seems mindless to me. This felt a little more effort, and I appreciate that. A little more subtlety. I love the fact that all 3 sets of contact lenses for Deadites were used. That was huge to me. We saw the whiteout lenses on the son, which is, of course, the Raimi-verse Deadites. We saw the contacts on the daughter, the short-haired daughter, which was the 2013 contact lenses. And then, of course, Mommy had her Evil Dead Rise contact lenses. So I like that all 3 versions of Deadites were explored, kind of tying them together, suggesting that there are different kinds of Deadites. Which also beckons the question, what type of Deadite is Jason? But that was really cool. I enjoyed that. The record from 1923 with the priests finding the book overseas and talking about how there were one of 3. I liked that a lot until I read that Lee specifically wanted it to be the 3 from Army of Darkness. That I didn't like so much because we know that 2 of those books were fake. So... and they were identical. So I liked the idea that the 3 books were the 2013 book, this book, and then one of the Raimi books, because it ties together the 3 branches of the franchise, and I thought that was really cool. But just to flat out say it was the 3 in Army of Darkness, I don't care for that. I feel like that was too simple. That was too easy. It should have just been there are 3 books, and we've seen the 3. I still feel that the 2013 book is a remake of an original book, that somebody tried to destroy it. It didn't work. And somebody remade it, and that's why it has a printing press involved with it. But I really like the way this book was done page-wise and how they panned out into the story and how the book was alive. That was a really cool aspect that the Raimi books had, morphing and talking and things like that. So I thought that was really cool, too. The 3-book concept I loved because I think Raimi, when he did his pilot, Within the Woods, there was like 8 or 9 volumes of the Necronomicon, he had stated, something like that. And that was the original concept, and they couldn't do that, so they just had 1. But it was really good. I did really enjoy it. I kind of didn't understand why the Room 89 or Room 82 didn't pan out. Like, that seemed like maybe that was an abandoned plot point with reshoots and stuff, or I'm not sure. I feel like them going through that abandoned room, which was like, they said, oh, God, that room. Like, there was something wrong with it, so there was going to be a lot of cool stuff in there to kill people with. Don't know why they abandoned that. I would have preferred that to the Blood Elevator, but I'm okay with the Shining reference. That's cool. I loved when Beth took the pose of the original Evil Dead poster with the chainsaw. That was really cool. I like that the chainsaw was colored like the Delta because they couldn't get the Delta in the movie. I thought that was cool. Hearing Bruce on the recording was cool. And Sam was one of those voices too, I believe. As the priest saying, don't read the Book of the Dead and all that. That was pretty cool. Now there's a debate whether or not that's Ash or not. I don't think so. I think it's just a cameo. But I think he's very smart, he being Lee, to not directly debunk that and just say, well, it could be. I mean, he may know for a fact it's not, because, again, Bruce is the producer of this movie. But by saying it might be, all the little Ash-obsessed wankers can go in and see it without being, oh, it might be Ash, so I have to see it. And then they can hope and dream and be like, the next movie's going to be all about Ash. It's all Ash. Ash all the time. There won't be even women in the movie. Unless Ash is fucking them. And then they can go get those viewers to pay and go see and make the movie successful. So I think that's smart marketing, but No, I don't think that's Ash, and I think that would be surprising if it was. Unless it's something where you want to leave it open because you maybe want to do a comic book series about Ash traveling through time again, which they already did. But if you want to do it again, then that would make sense. If you wanted to do an animated film about Ash jumping through time, which they've already done, again, in comic book form, but they could do it again. I just don't see what the purpose would be of Ash being awake and alive in 1923. I just don't see why they would do that. In particular, why he would bother arguing with priests. And so I think it's just Bruce doing a cameo, nothing more. But it's open to being something more potentially if they want it to be. So I think it's smart to not definitively say no, unless Bruce tells you to definitively say no. It beckons the question, where do we go with this being as successful as it is, making as much money? It's more than doubled its budget already, and it looks like it's going to continue to make some money. It's not going to, do $1 billion. I don't even know if it'll do like $500 million, but it's definitely looking like it's going to be the most successful Evil Dead movie ever made. The 2013 success is what got us Ash vs. Evil Dead. This movie, no doubt, will fund the animated season of Ash vs. Evil Dead that Bruce is trying to put together. So that's really good. He'll take his producer money and pump it into that. But I think this movie beckons sequels for Lee Cronin. And so by establishing a central figure, a central Deadite figure that seems to be in charge, it does sort of seem to imply, with what the first scene was and the last scene was, that this evil re-entered another person because it's summoned and it's here, that this is a leader figure like Ball or something like that. And so where do you go with a sequel? Well, we know that Evil Dead got out. She took it out of the building, and now it's out in the world. So you have Evil Dead Rise. My next movie would be Evil Dead Reigns, where you have Evil Deadites have taken over the world, and it's sort of like a Walking Dead situation where you have a ragtag group of maybe Knights of Samaria or something like that fighting the evil, trying to figure out how to wrap it up. And then you do a third movie that ends it, where they finally seal it up and free the world, and you call that like Evil Dead Dies or something like that. So you do Rise, Reigns, Dies, and you do a nice little 3-piece film, kind of like Planet of the Apes. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Reign of Planet of the Apes, and then Fall of Planet of the Apes. Something to that avail. I think that would make a lot of sense, and I think that if I was going to write that, my loose arc would be, with Evil Dead dominating, you find relics of the hero of the sky and learn what he did to combat evil, and the Knights of Samaria discover that the only way to combat it is you have to destroy the books, which is the conduit into the world, and you have to kill the lead demon that's summoning all the demons, or maybe it's a dark one, whatever. And the only way to do that is with the Kandarian dagger. So you make the second movie all about finding the Kandarian dagger, and then somebody accidentally stabs a book and it destroys the book, and then they figure out, oh, if we kill the main person and the other 2 books with this dagger, then we can save the world. So you beat the mini boss in the movie too, and that opens up how you do it. And then the third movie is all about that race to kill off the last of them with the dagger. And maybe you chop the dagger up and make little bullets out of it, or I don't know, something. But it also would be acceptable if they said that it's not just I would like it to be the Kandarian dagger, but you could also do the Spear of Longinus. That would work too. You've already introduced the Catholic Church. That was something that was very interesting about Evil Dead, is they'd never really introduced religion into the fold before, and now they've gone that route. So now once you've done that, and you've brought in the fact that there were priests and that exorcisms didn't work and all that, how much Christianity or monotheism do you insert into Evil Dead? So do you bring in the Spear of Longinus? Do you acknowledge Christ as a real figure in history, or do you just sort of leave religion as religion, and that's why it didn't work, and you just bypass that completely? I could see them going either way with it. My guess would be they probably wouldn't lean into that. They would just stick with the lore and the IP that they've established, and I think they would probably do that. But yeah, if you were looking for an Evil Dead movie, this is it. It feels Evil Dead. There's callbacks to Evil Dead. All the Evil Deads are referenced. It was very Evil Dead. It had all the touch of Bruce and Sam that any other Evil Dead movie you wanted would have. And for some of the people who are complaining that this isn't an Evil Dead movie, I literally have no idea what you were looking for. I really do. Other than Ash, which means you're not into Evil Dead, you're into Bruce Campbell. But, other than the homoerotic obsession that men seem to have with Bruce Campbell, I don't understand. Is it the fact that there are women heroes? I mean, that's every horror movie. Like, what didn't you like? The dialogue was there. It was super Evil Dead-esque dialogue. The unique murder was there. Camera angles were there. The references and Easter eggs were there. The book was there. The book mattered, and it had relevance to the plot. The tape recordings were there. The incantation was the same, Kandar. It was all invoked the same way. I mean, all three Deadite eyes were there, so it referenced all the previous Deadites were acknowledged. Dead by Dawn. I mean, like, what the hell else? Shotgun. I mean, literally, what else did you want? At a chainsaw. Like, I just don't understand how anybody could watch this movie and not say it's an Evil Dead movie, and I don't understand why people would be upset with it. I don't. I'm not saying, taste-wise, you can't dislike it. That's fine. I mean, like I said, people can go to a 4-star Michelin restaurant, order an award-winning meal and say it sucked and they like McDonald's better. That doesn't mean you're a connoisseur of food. It just means that your taste is your taste. But you can't say that it's bad, because obviously experts have rated it good. And so you can not like a dish, but you can't say a dish is bad. That's not true. So you can not like the movie, but you can't say it's a bad movie, because it is been rated by professionals as a good movie. It is being accepted. It is critically acclaimed as a film, and therefore it is a good movie. Sam and Bruce did sign off on this. This is an Evil Dead movie. This is a good Evil Dead movie. It may not be your taste, but again, I don't know what the fuck your taste is then. Like, this is everything an Evil Dead movie is supposed to be. It's a bunch of people in one cabin getting picked off one at a time by the Evil Dead. It's campy, it's uncomfortable, it's over the top, it's not a startle fest. It's a little over the top and implausible at times, but that's like the whole series. That's what the whole thing is supposed to be. So yeah, so if this was not your cup of tea, I have no idea why, but I've seen just these stupid responses. It was poorly written and it was poorly executed. I was like, is that your expert opinion as a fucking filmmaker? Like, I just can't. I have zero tolerance for that shit, because you just sound dumb. So no, it's not. Lee Cronin is an amazing filmmaker. So you can't knock the plot. You can't knock the writing. You can't knock the cinematography. You can't knock the effects. I mean, the CGI to the practical was seamless. And if you said it's not, then you're just trying to be butthurt at that point, because now you're talking out of your ass. I mean, I've got a couple friends in the film industry, and I talked to them last night too, and one of them does their own CGI, and they were like, that shit was tight. Like, he was like, I had to really look to see what was what. Like, sometimes it's like, I mean, the flames, I was talking to a friend of mine, he said the flames were so good in that movie, they had to double check, but like, is that CGI flames, or did they set a body double on fire and transpose real fire? Like, they were kind of like, wait a minute, I gotta take a closer look. We determined it was CGI flame, but it was like, dude, like, that was well done. And there were a couple giveaways that we landed on that, but like, I don't know what people were looking for. I think they were just determined to not like anything that didn't have Bruce on principle, and that bores me. But I will say that if this is the future of Evil Dead, these are the kinds of movies they're going to make going forward, I'm here for it. I will absolutely watch it. 2013, I've only watched it once. It had no rewatchability to me, because it was just like a blatant, like, oh my God, look how uncomfortable this is, kind of horror movie. And it was very much the 2010s vibe, latter half aughts, beginning of the 2010s kind of horror vibe. And they transposed Evil Dead into that. And I thought, fine, I mean, Evil Dead's doing nothing, so try something. And I was fine with it. I thought it was a well-made movie. It was an interesting reimagining of how Evil Dead could go, but without a really strong protagonist. Nothing against Mia, but in terms of acting and total performance, she wasn't a strong protagonist. I didn't think there was any place for that franchise to go. I like the character Mia, but in truth, I think they should have killed her at the end. But she didn't, and she's in Evil Dead the game now, and I'm totally fine with it. But yeah, 2013 wasn't my kind of horror movie. And when people say, oh, it's not Evil Dead, it's like, yeah, I kind of understand what you mean by that. It is Evil Dead, but it's not. I get it. This movie was Evil Dead. And again, I don't think Beth was a particularly strong character. I think she was deliberately a weak character who had to become strong, which is good story, good writing. I think the little girl is arguably the strongest character in the movie, and if you're going to build a franchise, you don't build it around Beth, you build it around her growing up. That would be the character I would focus on, because that child would need therapy for the rest of their life and definitely not want to touch any of her family members. So the fact that she had this connection to Beth, I think, was spoke volumes about that the little girl's the main character. Beth is our protagonist, really, but I feel like the main character of that story is the little girl, Cass. I think that is definitely where you go with that going forward. You put somebody in that role. And if you're going to grow her up, in the next movie, after like years of the Evil Dead reigning, and she's sort of like a Sarah Connor figure or whatever, you put a young but actress who can handle a role like that, like a Millie Bobby Brown or somebody like that. Although I doubt she would attach herself to Evil Dead, given that she's on Stranger Things. But a character like that, somebody who can handle that, I could see them going a number of different ways. But I wouldn't probably see Beth again. I think it would make sense to have her die in childbirth or something like that, or have that the child was affected by evil and all that, and then you follow Cassie around. I think that would make a lot of sense. And then if you're lucky, maybe you could do an old man Bruce, but I really doubt it. I really doubt they'd do it. Bruce said he'd come back for Sam, but they can't afford Sam. Sam made more money in his paycheck for Doctor Strange 2 than this entire movie will make. So it's one of those things where it's like, he made more than the entire budget of this movie. So I don't think they could afford Sam. And then even if they could, the only reason to bring Sam back would be to tie everything together with references to all the previous Evil Deads, which are owned by Studio Canal and Universal and various entities. And then you have to pay IP licensing for all those different studios. And it becomes this very large, over $100 million budget movie that, probably won't make its profit back in the way you want. So I just don't see financially that happening. So I don't see Sam coming back to direct, and I don't see, therefore, Bruce coming back to be in it. But I hope they follow this with a couple more films. I think Lee should get the next 2 movies, give it to him, and, do it. Do the post-apocalyptic, do the world has been destroyed. Kind of like what Snyder tried to do with Vegas in that zombie movie that was on Netflix or whatever. Kind of something like that, but less Snyder, more Evil Dead. And then, the final one, wrap it up. Evil Dead dies. Definitively end the Evil Dead saga, but in the way that you close the book and it's dead until somebody resummons it again. So you end the movie, it's definitively over, and then you find out that the book remakes itself and does endure, and it can be found again somewhere. Or there's a 4th book that nobody knew about, or somebody retransposed the book and nobody knew about it. Kind of like, you allude that the 2013 is that or something. And I think you could do it that way, and it would be cool. But overall, I thought this was a great Evil Dead movie. I thought it was very respectful to everything that had come before, literally everything that had come before. And I hope they make some more. I would see more, for sure I would. But, other than the fact that the hero's not a guy, I don't know what you'd complain about in the movie. I could understand that, that certain people are mad that anytime a guy's in a horror movie, all they do is die now. But, that's kind of indicative of all horror movies, It's always been that way. So again, I don't know what people didn't like, but I don't have to. I liked it, so I'm good. So thanks for checking it out. Check out the Knights of Samaria page if you want to have more in-depth conversation about this movie. I will tell you up front, we are a positivity-driven group, and therefore, if you didn't like it or you want to criticize it, better to do that here on YouTube in the comments or something like that. Don't come to the Knights for that, because I'm not allowing anybody to knock the movie. I'm not even expressing what I dislike about it in my group. I'm only doing that here on YouTube. And like I said, it's not a perfect movie, but it's pretty close in terms of an Evil Dead movie. You really couldn't ask for much more in terms of loyalty and respect to the franchise. I thought it was a good addition to the franchise. I really liked how the book was used The design will grow on me over time. It still looks like a Harry Potter book to me with the Magical Book of Monsters, but the pages were gorgeous. So I will make the book. I definitely will not touch it until the DVD comes out so I can get better references for it, but I will make the book at some point. I don't know if I'll distribute them, but I'll make myself one. Because now that 3 books is part of the lore, I have to have that book. And I probably have to have the 2013 now in order to fit that. So even though I have all the Raimi books I gotta make this one. So I'll make it. But no, it was a good movie. I like it. I'm happy about it. And yeah, I hope they make some more, and I can't wait to see what the next Evil Dead project is with this. I'd love for them to make an officially licensed replica of the Necronomicon. That's not going to happen, but I wish they would, because I think it would be fantastic. And I think it would sell. I think the movie's doing well enough that people would buy it. I think this would be an opportunity to make something that would sell and do that. So Tots did it with the ED2, and I think that this one would move. So hopefully people want to jump on the merchandising and make that happen. But we'll see. There won't be any at auction. There was only 1 hero book made, and there were no stunt books made, and the director owns that book. So the pages will never go to auction. We'll never see high-res versions of the pages or anything like that. So outside the end credits, there really isn't much we can do. So let's see what happens. But we'll get some type of version of it out at some point. But I expect a lot of people will make the covers with hot glue. But yeah, I think the next logical step is you do 2 more movies for sure. Thanks for checking it out, guys. A lot of Star Wars stuff coming. If you liked this intro that I put on this video, I will put in the description below the maker. His name's Rufus. He's great at intros and stuff, and I really appreciate him throwing me this intro. Hopefully I'll have a new one for Star Wars from him as well. Thanks, Rufus, for the intro. Appreciate you, buddy. And like I said, if you want more Evil Dead stuff, check out the Knights of Samaria Facebook page for anything positive. And if you want to have more of an open conversation, an open forum, check out Ghost Beaters page as well, where they have a little less of the restrictions. I'm in both those groups. You can find me in either one. Cheers, guys.